Okay, so picture this. You, but working with molten metal. Sounds kind of intense right now. Well, that's what we're diving into today.
It's hotter than you think, and that's not just because, there's literal fire involved.
Yeah, we're talking about metal furnace operator interviews.
Yeah.
How do you snag a job working with, like, liquid metal?
That's a really good question.
We're going to break it all down for you.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just, I like fire, hire me.
Definitely not. And thankfully, we have some help with this. RoleCatcher, they've got this whole section about becoming a metal furnace operator, and they even have, like, sample interview questions.
Which is good, because you want to be prepared for those, because they can be a little tricky.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't we start with the questions? Because that seems like the most helpful thing to me.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first up, we have describe your experience working in a metal furnace operation. Now, see, I would read that, and I'd be like, well, I don't have any, so net XT. But they probably get at something more with that question, right?
Oh, yeah. They're definitely trying to dig a little deeper. I think what they're really looking for is, have you been in a similar environment? Can you handle the heat, so to speak?
Yeah.
The pressure.
Literally.
Exactly. So even if you haven't worked specifically as a metal furnace operator, think about times when you've had to be really detail-oriented.
Right.
Follow strict safety procedures. Maybe you've worked in manufacturing before, or even in a really fast-paced kitchen.
Okay.
It's all about drawing those parallels.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's not necessarily about the, like, specific job title you had.
Right.
But more about those transferable skills.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say they ask, what kind of challenges did you face in that environment, and how did you overcome them? I feel like this is where they want you to, like, subtly brag a little, but it's hard to find that line.
It is. It is. You don't want to sound like you're, tooting your own horn too much.
Yeah.
But you do want to showcase how you handle those tough situations.
Right.
So think about a time when something went wrong.
Okay.
Maybe a piece of equipment malfunctioned. Maybe there was a miscommunication with a coworker. And then walk them through how you tackled it.
Right.
Did you stay calm? Did you troubleshoot the problem? Did you ask for help when you needed it?
Right. So it's kind of like showing how you problem solve as well, not just that you can, like, lift heavy things or whatever they need you to lift.
Exactly. They want to see that you can think on your feet.
Right, exactly.
And that you're, that you're proactive and
Right.
not just like waiting for someone to tell you what to do.
Makes sense. Okay, next up. How do you ensure that the metal furnace operates efficiently and safely? Two biggies in one question. Where would someone even begin with that?
Yeah, that's a big one. And it kind of gets to the heart of what a metal furnace operator does, right?
Yeah.
It's all about finding that balance between like getting the job done, but also not, blowing the place up.
Yeah, exactly. Because if it's not safe, it doesn't matter how efficient it is.
Exactly. Safety is always paramount. Always, always, always.
So how do you convey that in an interview?
Well, you can start by talking about your commitment to following safety protocols to the letter, no shortcuts.
Okay.
Then you can weave in those efficiency measures, talk about things like preventative maintenance, making sure the equipment is in tip-top shape, and understanding how different factors like temperature and timing affect the quality of the metal.
Right. So it's that attention to detail.
Exactly.
So you're not just pressing buttons, you're really thinking about the whole process.
Yeah. You're kind of like the conductor of an orchestra, making sure everything's working in harmony.
I love that analogy. Okay, let's say they throw you a curveball. They follow up with, if you were training a new operator, what would be the most important safety advice you'd give them? It's like they're testing if you really walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
For sure. And this is where you can really let your experience shine through.
Yeah.
Think about the one thing that was drilled into you.
Yeah.
The thing you never, ever compromise on. Maybe it's wearing the right PPE every single time, no exceptions. Or maybe it's about maintaining a clean and organized workspace to prevent accidents. Whatever it is, make it clear that safety is non-negotiable.
Safety first. I like it. It's good advice for any job, really.
You're telling me. All right, let's move on to another question. How do you troubleshoot issues that arise during a metal furnace operation? Because let's be real, stuff happens.
Oh, for sure. Things don't always go according to plan.
Never. And this is where they want to see how you handle those curveballs. Can you think on your feet?
Right. Are you a problem solver?
Exactly.
So how do you answer this one without freezing up?
So imagine the furnace is acting up. The temperature is fluctuating. Alarms are going off. It's chaos. Walk them through your process.
Okay.
What's the first thing you check? Do you look at the fuel supply,
Mm-hmm.
the sensors? Do you consult the manuals? Maybe you have a go-to checklist you've developed over the years. The key is to show them you have a system, a methodical approach to identifying and addressing problems. You don't just panic and start pushing buttons.
Right. So you're like a detective, but for molten metal.
Exactly. You're piecing together the clues to solve the mystery of the misbehaving furnace.
I like it. Okay, on to the next challenge. Question 4. How do you ensure that the metal being produced meets quality standards? And we're not just talking about, like, forks and spoons here.
Yeah.
This metal could be going into airplanes, bridges, life or death stuff.
You got it. The pressure is on. This question is all about quality control.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be meticulous in this field because even the tiniest flaw can have huge consequences.
That's a good point. So how do you show them you're all about that precision?
Well, you can start by talking about the importance of following the recipe, so to speak.
Okay.
That means making sure the furnace is prepped correctly, the raw materials are up to snuff, and that you're monitoring every step of the process like a hawk. You can also mention things like regular testing, taking samples of the molten metal to check its composition and properties.
Right, making sure it's actually, like, strong enough or whatever it needs to be.
Precise.
So it's about more than just, like, eyeballing it.
Way more. There's a science to it, and you got to know your stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay, question 5. Describe your experience with different types of metal alloys. Now, I know an alloy is a mixture of metals, but why is this so important for a metal furnace operator?
Good question. It's like this. Different alloys have different properties.
Yep.
Some are super strong, some are resistant to corrosion, some are lightweight but durable. As a metal furnace operator, you got to know which alloys to use for which applications. You're like a metal matchmaker.
Ooh, I like that. So it's like you're not just melting down metal, you're creating these specific materials for specific purposes.
Exactly. You're part scientist, part artist.
That's awesome. Okay, so they ask about your experience with different alloys. What if you're thinking, uh-oh, I've only ever worked with one type of metal? What then?
Well, then you got to show them you're eager to learn. Talk about how you're fascinated by the properties of different metals and how you're excited to expand your knowledge. You can even mention some specific alloys that you're interested in and why.
So it's all about showing that you're, like, hungry for knowledge, you're not intimidated by a challenge?
Exactly. The best metal furnace operators are always looking to learn and grow.
That's awesome. All right, on to question 6. How do you ensure that the metal furnace is properly maintained and repaired? This sounds like one of those an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure kind of things.
100%. Regular maintenance is key in this game. You don't want to wait for something to break down because then you're talking about costly repairs, downtime, and potentially dangerous situations.
Yeah, that's a good point. So how do you convey that preventative mindset in an interview?
Well, you can talk about your experience with routine inspections, checking for wear and tear, and making sure everything's running smoothly. You can also mention things like keeping detailed logs and records of maintenance activities. That way, you can track any issues and address them before they become major problems. It's all about being proactive.
Right. It's kind of like going to the doctor for checkups.
Exactly. You're not waiting until you're at death's door. You're taking care of yourself so you can stay healthy and strong.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of strong, question 7 is all about safety. Describe your experience working with safety protocols in a metal furnace operation. This one feels like a make or break topic in this field.
Oh, absolutely. Safety is non-negotiable when you're dealing with molten metal.
Right.
This question is your chance to show them that you're not just aware of the rules, but that you live and breathe them.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Don't just list off a bunch of safety procedures. Give them specific examples of times when you've gone above and beyond to maintain a safe work environment.
Okay.
Maybe you identified a potential hazard and took steps to correct it.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you spoke up when you saw someone else taking a shortcut.
Right. So it's about being proactive, not just reactive.
Right. So it's about being proactive, not just reactive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to be a safety champion. Love it. Okay, moving on to question 8. How do you manage and prioritize tasks in a metal furnace operation? It seems like there's a lot going on in this job, a lot to keep track of.
Oh, there definitely is. You got to be able to juggle multiple tasks at once, all while staying calm and focused. This question is really about your organizational skills and your ability to stay on top of things.
So how do you show them you're up to the task?
Give them a concrete example of a time when you had to prioritize competing demands.
Okay.
Maybe you had to balance a routine maintenance check with an urgent request for a specific type of metal.
Right.
Walk them through your decision-making process. How did you decide which task to tackle first?
Okay.
What factors did you consider? Did you delegate any tasks to others?
So it's about showing them you can handle the pressure and make those tough calls when you need to.
Exactly.
Okay, on to question 9. Describe your experience with continuous improvement initiatives in a metal furnace operation. Now, this one sounds a little less about the day-to-day tasks and more about, like, big picture thinking, right?
You got it. This question is all about showing them that you're not just content with the status quo.
Okay.
You're always looking for ways to make things better, more efficient, safer.
Gotcha. So how do you answer this one if you're thinking, well, I'm not sure I've ever implemented any formal initiatives?
No problem. Think about a time when you came up with an idea
Okay.
or made a suggestion that improved a process, even in a small way.
Right, so it doesn't have to be this, like, huge groundbreaking thing.
Exactly. Maybe you found a way to reduce waste or save time or make a task a little bit safer. Share that story.
Right. Show them you're a problem solver and innovator.
Exactly. Someone who's always thinking about the bigger picture.
That's awesome. Now let's talk about how RoleCatcher can actually help you prepare for these questions, because they don't just leave you hanging.
Oh no, they've got your back. Their platform is like having a secret weapon in your job search arsenal.
All right, so what's the magic formula?
Well, first off, their AI engine is incredible. You can upload your resume, and it'll analyze it, looking for keywords and skills that are relevant to metal furnace operator roles.
Wow, so it's like having a personal resume reviewer.
Exactly. And not just any reviewer, one that knows the ins and outs of the metal industry.
That's so cool. So it can tell you if you're, like, using the right lingo, highlighting the right skills.
Exactly. It's like getting a crash course in what employers are looking for.
That's amazing. But it doesn't stop there, right? What about prepping for the actual interview questions?
They've got you covered there, too. You can actually input your answers to common interview questions, and their AI will give you feedback on how to make them even stronger.
No way. So it's like having a personal interview coach in your pocket.
Exactly. It'll point out any areas where you might be rambling or not being specific enough or not tailoring your answers to the specific job requirements.
That is so helpful because I know I've definitely been in interviews where I'm like, did I answer that correctly? Did I give them what they wanted? And you never know.
Exactly. But with RoleCatcher, you're going in there with confidence, knowing that you've put your best foot forward.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the importance of, like, actually practicing your answers out loud.
Oh, for sure. You don't want to sound like a robot when you're in the hot seat.
Definitely not. It's one thing to have it written down. It's another to be able to actually say it confidently and naturally.
Exactly. So grab a friend, a family member, a mirror, and just practice, practice, practice.
Great advice. And you know what? We've covered a lot in this deep dive already, but we're not done yet.
Oh, no, we've got so much more to share.
We do. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more tips and insights on how to ace that metal furnace operator interview. Stay tuned. All right, so we're back, and things are about to get even hotter. We're talking about why you and what it takes to impress those hiring managers, right?
Absolutely. You got to bring the heat, metaphorically speaking, of course.
Right, no actual fire breathing in the interview, unless that's on the job description.
Unless that's what they're looking for, then go for it. But seriously, a lot of it comes down to having those core skills and really showcasing them. And RoleCatcher, they lay it all out in their career guide. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like they peeked inside the brains of those hiring managers or something. Like they know exactly what they're looking for.
It's true. And one thing they emphasize is that this role isn't just about, muscle. You got to be smart about it, too.
Right, like it's not just about how much weight you can lift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're operating complex machinery, you're monitoring systems, you're troubleshooting problems. You got to be on top of your game.
So it's a lot of problem solving, critical thinking, that kind of stuff.
You got it. And you need to understand how all the different parts of the process work together. Like, how does the temperature affect the metal? What happens if you add too much of this element or not enough of that one?
Okay, so you really need to know your stuff, like the science behind it.
Exactly. It's not just like melting stuff down and hoping for the best. There's a real art to it.
I'm learning so much. So for someone who's like just starting out in their career, how do they show that they're like eager to learn all this stuff, that they have that potential?
That's such a good question because everyone starts somewhere, right?
Oh.
I think one of the best things you can do is show them that you're hungry for knowledge. Ask questions like, what kind of training opportunities are there? Or Do you have a mentorship program?
Right. Show them you're in it for the long haul. You're not just looking for, like, a quick paycheck.
Exactly. You want to be a metal furnace operator, not just someone who works as one, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what else RoleCatcher talks about? Continuous learning. They really emphasize that, which I guess makes sense because technology is always changing, right?
Oh, absolutely. This field is constantly evolving. New technologies are emerging all the time. New alloys are being developed. Safety standards are always improving.
So you can't just rest on your laurels. You got to stay up to date.
Exactly. And employers are looking for people who are adaptable, who are eager to learn new things, who can roll with the punches.
Gotcha. So how do you actually do that? How do you stay ahead of the curve in this field?
Well, there are plenty of ways. You can attend industry conferences and workshops,
Anyway,
read trade publications, take online courses, even just network with other professionals and see what they're learning about.
so it's about being proactive, taking the initiative to learn and grow.
100%. And it shows employers that you're invested in your career, that you're serious about being the best metal furnace operator you can be.
I like that. It's like you're not just waiting for someone to hand you knowledge, you're going out there and grabbing it.
Exactly. Now, here's something else that might surprise you. Networking. I know, it might seem weird because you're dealing with like molten metal, not Silicon Valley startups.
Right. It's not the first thing that comes to mind.
But trust me, building relationships in this industry is crucial.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think about it. You can learn so much from other people who have been in the trenches, so to speak. They can give you insights into different companies, share tips and tricks, maybe even point you in the direction of a job opening.
That's a good point. It's like having those insider connections.
Exactly. And it's not as hard as you might think. You can start by attending industry events, joining professional organizations, even just connecting with people on LinkedIn.
Right, putting yourself out there.
Exactly. You never know where a conversation might lead.
That's awesome. Now, let's circle back to RoleCatcher for a sec, because we talked about their AI and how it can analyze your resume, but how does that actually work?
Okay, so let's say you're applying for a specific metal furnace operator job.
Okay.
You can upload your resume to RoleCatcher, and their AI will scan it, looking for keywords and skills that match the job description. It's like having a personal brand manager, making sure you're putting your best foot forward.
Wow. So it's not just looking for like spelling errors or grammar. It's actually understanding the content of your resume and how it relates to the job.
Exactly. It's looking for those specific skills and experiences that employers are looking for, and it can even give you a score so you know how well you match up.
That's so cool. And then on top of that, it can help you prepare for those interview questions like we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah. Remember how we were talking about tailoring your answers to the specific job requirements?
Right.
RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you do that.
No way. So it's like having a personal interview coach in your corner.
Exactly. You can input your answers to common interview questions, and their AI will give you feedback on how to make them even stronger. It's like having a secret weapon in your interview arsenal.
That's amazing. But even with all the AI in the world,
Yeah.
I still think there's something to be said for like actually practicing your answers out loud.
Oh, absolutely. You got to get comfortable saying the words out loud, getting those nerves out.
Exactly. Because it's one thing to have a great answer in your head, but it's another to be able to deliver it confidently and naturally in an interview setting.
100%. So find a friend, find a family member, find a mirror, and just practice, practice, practice. It makes a world of difference.
Awesome advice. And speaking of things that make a difference, let's talk about body language for a sec. Because I feel like that can really make or break an interview, no matter how great your answers are.
Oh, for sure. Body language speaks volumes.
Right, like if you're slouching and avoiding eye contact, it's not a good look.
Exactly. You want to come across as confident and engaged, even if you're feeling nervous on the inside.
So like, what are some things people can do to project confidence, even if they're feeling like a nervous wreck inside?
Well, first off, eye contact is key. It shows that you're listening and that you're interested in what the interviewer has to say. Good posture is important too. Sit up straight, shoulders back. It makes you look and feel more confident.
Okay, so it's like fake it till you make it, but with body language.
Kinda, yeah. And don't forget to smile. A genuine smile can go a long way.
That's a good point. It's like you're showing them that you're like happy to be there, excited about the opportunity.
Exactly. Enthusiasm is contagious, and it can really make you stand out from the crowd.
Love it. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here, but let's switch gears for a moment and talk about something a little bigger picture.
Okay, I like it. Hit me.
RoleCatcher mentions this whole thing about automation, and how it's changing the manufacturing industry, even in like a hands-on field like metal furnace operation. It got me thinking, how can someone demonstrate that they're adaptable and willing to learn these new technologies during an interview?
That's a really insightful question because it shows you're thinking ahead, which is exactly what employers want to see.
Right, you're not just thinking about the job today, you're thinking about the job 5, 10 years down the line.
Exactly. So how do you convey that? Well, you can start by expressing a genuine interest in technology and how it's being used in the industry. Maybe you've read articles about automated furnaces, or you've seen videos of robots being used in metal fabrication. Mention that.
Okay, so it's about showing them that you're like not intimidated by technology. You're actually excited about it.
Exactly. And you don't have to be a tech whiz to do this.
Right.
Just show them that you're willing to learn and that you're adaptable to change. That's what matters most.
Love it. It's about having that growth mindset, that willingness to embrace new challenges.
100%. The most successful metal furnace operators of the future will be those who can combine their hands-on skills with a deep understanding of technology.
That's awesome. Now, I feel like we could talk about this stuff all day, but we've still got some more interview questions to unpack.
Oh yeah, those curveballs are coming, and we're going to help you knock them out of the park.
Love it. Let's do it. All right, we are back for the final round of this metal furnace operator interview prep. We're going to make sure you're totally cool and collected when those really tough questions come your way. What do you think?
We've got to make sure you can handle the heat, right? And I mean that both literally and, figuratively.
Okay, I love it. So RoleCatcher, they got this question. Describe a time you had to make a critical decision during a metal furnace operation. So this isn't just about knowing the process. This is about like thinking on your feet, right?
You're in the middle of everything. The furnace is roaring. The metal is like glowing and something goes wrong.
Oh, no.
That's when they find out what you're really made of. Can you stay calm? Can you make the right call under pressure?
So how do you even answer a question like that? Because I'd be like,
Think of a time when you had to make a judgment call, and it could be in any aspect of the job. Maybe the temperature started going haywire or an alarm went off.
Okay.
Walk them through it, step by step. What did you do? Why did you do it?
So like you're showing them you can problem solve, but also that you can make those tough decisions when you need to.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention the outcome. Did your quick thinking save the day?
Right. You want that happy ending. Okay, now, question 7. This one's a little different. How do you handle a situation where you notice a coworker not following safety protocols?
Okay, this is tough because it's not just about the furnace, it's about people. Like, how do you deal with that kind of conflict?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
You got to be a team player, but you got to put safety first. Always.
So what do you say? Hey, you're doing it wrong.
Not exactly. Remember, you're not the safety police. You're just looking out for everyone, including that coworker.
Okay, so how do you approach it?
Calmly and respectfully. Maybe pull them aside and say something like, hey, I noticed you're not wearing your gloves. Just wanted to remind you how important it is, especially around here.
Right, it's not about getting them in trouble, it's about keeping everyone safe.
Exactly. And if they get defensive or they blow you off,
Ooh, that's tough. What then?
then you got to escalate it. Talk to your supervisor, explain the situation.
Yeah.
It's their job to handle it from there. Makes sense. Safety first. Okay, next up, question 8. How do you stay up to date on the latest technologies and advancements in metal furnace operation? We kind of talked about this before, but they're really hitting it hard, huh?
Yeah, they want to see that you're not just content with, doing things the way they've always been done.
Right, you're not stuck in your ways.
Exactly. This industry is always changing, always innovating. You got to keep learning, keep growing.
So how do you show them you're on top of it?
Talk about the stuff you read, the conferences you attend, maybe even online forums or groups you're part of.
Okay, so you're plugged in, you're part of the community.
Exactly. And if you've taken any courses or gotten any certifications, definitely mention those. It shows you're serious about professional development.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here, from handling molten metal to dealing with difficult coworkers. But as we wrap up this deep dive, what's like the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Go in there prepared, know your stuff, practice your answers, but most importantly, let your passion shine through. Show them you're excited about this field, that you're eager to learn and grow, and that you're ready to bring the heat.
I love it. Okay, future metal furnace operators, go get them. And remember, RoleCatcher has your back every step of the way. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this fiery deep dive. We'll catch you on the flip side for our next adventure into the world of work.